Hi, we are now studying chapter 29, Wilsonian Progressivism at Home and Abroad. And it covers from about 1912 to 1916. So this was when Wilson was elected to the next election. And what I thought was really interesting in general about this election was um, previously the president was Taft. It was only his first term, so he was running again. But even before that, Teddy Roosevelt was president, and they're both like Republicans, kind of progressivists. And um, Teddy was like, "Oh, I'm not going to run for a third term, but I want him to run because he's really good." And then he ends up getting really mad at him during his presidency and the decisions he's making. And so he decides to run again in the 1912 election. Um, so he kind of goes a little crazy about over that. And then Taft is like, "No, I'm running," and he gets mad at Roosevelt for taking his moment, kind of. And so you have Teddy running on the progressive Republican ticket and Taft on the Republican ticket. And then you have Wilson um, on the Democratic ticket. So what happens is Wilson wins the election with 49% of the popular vote because Teddy and Taft split up the Republican vote. And it's interesting because he becomes like a minority president. And if it hadn't been for their like disagreement, a Republican would have probably won the presidency. But anyway, Wilson did a lot of really he had to deal with a lot of things during his presidency, including a lot of foreign intervention kind of thing. He he was an idealist, so he saw things in black and white instead of shades of gray. But that's not how the world works. And well, it kind of reminded me a lot about how Jefferson and like felt about Hamilton, because Jefferson would like criticize all these things Hamilton did, um, and but then when he became elected as president, he realized I have to do things like this too, or else it won't work. Or, it's idealistic versus realism, like how the real world works. And Wilson kind of didn't see it that way. Um, and he was very like anti-imperialistic, hated dollar diplomacy, and he kind of had to come to terms with that as not being really realistic when there were revolutions springing up in Latin America, like in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And they got involved, and I think the military was there in both countries for maybe over 10 years. And it was because it was for American interests. And then we also get a revolution going up in Mexico, which he got really involved in, which was totally against what he previously said he believed in. Because you had the revolution, which placed in Huerta into power, and he had a bloody regime, and that really upset Wilson, and he was like, "No, I want someone morally good for this country," and he gets really involved, and he wants something, so he asked Congress to be able to mobilize the troops so that they can go and get these people a good president. And they ends up a guy named Carranza or something like that ends up getting the president, and then Wilson's like, "No, I don't want him either," and he kind of ends up siding with a guy named Villa, which he's also doesn't completely support, but here he is, someone who wanted to be more isolationist, getting involved in Mexico's affairs. And then we also have the beginning of affairs with Europe during World War One, because some U-boats are attacking American merchant ships, and Wilson is like trying to avoid any sort of conflict, trying to make deals, and he's like sending food and supplies to England, but he can't send any to Germany, which are on complete opposite sides, which is causing some conflict. And he ends up running his platform, because by then it's 1916, as "I didn't get us into war," which I thought is very interesting because, as we know, we do eventually get involved in World War I. And here he is having to compromise his ideals and his views for what the country needed. So, thank you.